Welcome to an Upsidedown World,
a podcast from Tearfund Australia with your hosts Joel McKerrow
and Grace Naoum.
I'm a poet and a spoken word artist and a writer and a speaker.
I am an actor and an acting coach. You may know me as contestant number 3 from the Smith's Chips ad of 2019.
Life is poetry and stories, and so like getting to do this podcast where we're going to be interviewing lots of different people around their own story and their reflections on life and the Beatitudes and Lent this season we're coming into. I'm super excited. I mean, in our world that feels so divisive right now, which is a word that we often use to talk about the reality of our world because it's so true, like whether it's left versus right and progressive versus conservative and now vaxxers versus anti-vaxxers. Yes. Like there's so much stuff that is taking us either way, taking us away from each other. And I wonder if as we begin this time of Lent, is this something, and is this series, this time, something that could actually bring us toward each other?
Yeah, I think, so often and because society moves so quickly, we gravitate towards black and white. But I think Jesus and the Beatitudes, they're calling us to listen deeply to who God is and who He has made us to be, and what is what are we moving towards in the everyday, and how can we be more intentional about living out how Jesus wants us to live.
My year started with a young bloke who suicided, and then it went on to another suicide and a mother. That's why I say I've had to move my pulpit down into the graveside, because that's where our people are at.
Wow.
They're there every week. When you're standing in the midst of all of that suffering and that crying and that weeping and that loss, you have to look and say, well, here's Jesus weeping with us. But He's also saying to us, I am the resurrection and the life too. In the midst of all this sorry business.
I think for me here in Laos, I think how we live our lives is a huge testament. The witness or the testament of Christ is in and through us by our actions and our connections at the marketplace or in the villages. And so for me, a lot of the times, it's that, as I've mentioned before, that downward mobility. But it's really the temptation to be spectacular, the temptation to be powerful, and the temptation to be relevant. I think we have it very wrong. The church of the world has it so wrong, especially the Western churches.
Friends, so many of these conversations were incredibly moving and challenging. If you want to hear more from Uncle Ray, from Tearfund, who you just heard, from so many others, we begin March the 2nd, as Lent begins for 8 weeks. Come on this journey with us into a deep dive into those 8 sayings of Jesus, the Beatitudes. So please do subscribe to keep on receiving this podcast. And you can also go to tearfund.org.au, where you can register to receive Tears Lent series, which will give you a whole lot of meditations and prayers, and artwork will be posted to you, so you can continue, so you can engage more and more and more in this lead up to Easter. It would be so wonderful to have you join us.